I'm Kirk Hanson, Executive Director of the Markkula Center for Applied Ethics at Santa Clara University. We're pleased today to have a discussion of corporate internal investigations, and we have two experts with us who have just spoken to the Center's Business and Organizational Ethics Partnership and who have done extensive work on corporate investigations. They're Catherine Madrid, who has 20 years of experience in accounting firms in forensic accounting. She has worked on a large number of corporate investigations for Ernst Young. We also have with us Craig Martin, who is a partner with the law firm of Morrison and Foerster in San Francisco. And Craig has been formerly with the SEC and similarly has been involved in leading a large number of investigations at his law firm for corporate clients. The first question we're interested in is why are investigations so important to corporations today, given the current environment?
Well, I think, Kirk, that in the wake of the financial scandals in 2001, 2002, and with the economic collapse that we've just recently been through, companies are under increasing scrutiny by the government and are facing real risks in terms of regulatory action that could impair their ability to conduct business. And so increasingly companies and their shareholders are expecting that management and a board will take affirmative steps to make sure that the company is in compliance with the law. And the best mechanism that anybody's been able to come up with so far has been the independent internal investigation. So regulatory expectations coupled with a sensitivity to the reputational harm that a problem that has gone unchecked can cause a company, I think, have all led to an increased emphasis on internal investigations.
I'm interested in whether investigations today are different than they might have been 2 years ago or 5 years ago when they first became as common as we think of them today.
I think so, and I think the main difference has been the amount of data that are available to companies. It's a blessing and a curse because in some ways it's easier now to reconstruct what happened given email and other forms of communication. But the curse is that we're awash in a sea of data, which is expensive to process and even more expensive to actually review and analyze. And so I think that we've got much more data that we're trying to grapple with than we did 5 years ago. And as a result, the costs of preserving and reviewing that data and therefore conducting investigation have gone up.
With investigations, it's clearly important to have credibility. Why is that important? Is it credibility with the company? Is it credibility with the government? Is it credibility with the public?
I think, Kirk, you've answered the question for me. In truth, all of those constituencies need to have some comfort that there's a process in place and that there has been an independence in looking at an issue. What's important is that if an issue has been raised, particularly one that's significant, that the company has undertaken a process that's transparent and that has looked at the various aspects of that allegation to determine whether or not it has merits and to be in a position to report out on the process that it did take and the conclusions that it's reached, with an opportunity for others, such as the regulators or the auditors, to ask questions about that so that the various parties can understand what the conclusions were and how the company has resolved an issue that's come to its attention.
How is corporate America done? Are investigations reliable and respected in general?
I think it, in truth, depends on the investigation and whether or not that process has followed something that's planned and thought out. I think it varies investigation to investigation, but certainly the ones that are conducted with the process in mind, I think, have a lot of good procedures to point to and conclusions that they can rely upon.
with investigations, it's clearly good to be ready should you as a company have an incident where you need to do it. What can a company do now to prepare for that moment when they might need to do an investigation?
You're absolutely right. It's great if companies have a plan in place, and part of that preparation is having what I'd call an incident response plan. So when you hear of an issue, are you prepared, and do you have a team in place that can act readily? And it's important to act consistently and quickly so that you can do an independent investigation if appropriate, preserve the information that you need to look at, analyze that information, and of course at the end of it, report out. So it's very, very helpful for companies to have a game plan that they can kick into gear when something comes to their attention. So that's one aspect that I think that companies can do right now. A related component of that is having in place certain policies and procedures that will help in the execution of that plan. And along those lines, I'd say if they've got a document retention policy in place, making sure that it's something that covers the company and that employees are aware of it and are following it. I also think that companies should have in place, or certainly benefit from having in place, some data privacy policies and awareness. Many investigations these days cross over international borders, and the laws change country to country, and having some sort of preparation in place and policy in place so that you know how you're going to tackle it should an issue arise is very, very helpful for companies to be properly prepared.
I'm interested if there are particular ways that investigations can go bad, or that you worry most about as you go about your investigations that both of you do, that might derail an investigation or make it less than effective.
I think the concern that I have is wanting to get to an answer without giving it enough time. And so it's a natural sort of reaction that you want to get underneath an issue quickly, and you want to understand its implications. And sometimes that might mean you immediately use the resources that are available in terms of the team without maybe the thought about what components you want to have involved. I think it also can affect the scope. So you might be very focused on the issue that was raised. Inevitably, many issues could come about along the way, and you have to be prepared to deal with those, even if it extends the timeline. It's a fact of life in investigations that when you pull the thread, you don't know where it's going to go, and you need to be prepared to follow it to its natural conclusion.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Thank you, Craig, for being with us today to talk about corporate internal investigations. For more information about this topic and many other topics on business ethics, please go to our website, which is www.scu.edu/ethics. Thank you.